Welcome to Hearts and Wallets, where we talk about the intersection of love, money, and marriage. Today we're going to talk about the topic of don't be a good slave. It's one of my absolute favorite topics to discuss. And in Don't Being a Good Slave, we're going to talk about how to break free from the financial bondage. So let's dive right in. We're looking at a powerful truth coming from the Bible. Proverbs 22:7 says, "The borrower is slave to the lender." That may sound harsh, but it is very true. When I think about that, I think about the idea that everyone that I owe money to, I am a slave to. And it literally says it. The borrower is slave to the lender. In my mind, and I know this might sound a bit out there, but in my mind, I think about it from a family setting. If you owe your family member, brother, cousin, mother, whomever, money, you are a slave to them. So, it says it. I just, one of the main things when it comes to debt and just being in financial bondage is sometimes, most often, debt controls our choices. And I believe that one of the reasons why, well, several, we'll go over 3 reasons why that scripture is so profound and powerful is because when debt controls your choices, you no longer have the freedom to do certain things. When you owe money, your money is no longer yours. So you get paid a check, and every place that you owe, you're literally working to pay bills or pay people or, etc. A credit card company, a car loan, student loan services. Debt limits your ability to save, to invest, and to give generously. And so when you think about it, if I owe money, all of my check is going to all of my lenders every day to get a check to pay someone else. Once you experience the freedom of getting a check that you work for, getting paid, and you have the ability to take that money and invest or give or save, and you don't have any thoughts about, I have to pay this bill, this bill, this bill, this bill. Now, some bills, I will say that you're going to have mortgage, rent, those types of bills are going to be there. I am talking about a situation like, let me give you an example. You have a $10,000 credit card and you pay 20% interest on that credit card. So each month or each year, if you hold that balance, that's $20,000 to a credit card company. That $2,000 that you are spending toward interest every year could be spent toward saving, giving generously, or even going on a trip. A trip with your kids and your family. So I encourage you, if you're feeling stuck, don't despair. There are practical steps that you can take in order to break free from the bondage. Second thing that I want to point out is that when you have debt, it directly impacts your relationships. Like we were saying before, when you owe someone money, it is a different feeling in the relationship. And you can have a good relationship with them. Like, you could have a great relationship with them outside of them owing you and so forth. They may come on hard times, or you, and now money is exchanged. You have borrowed or they have borrowed. It is really interesting to me, the dynamic that shifts when you owe someone or when someone owes you. It's almost like it's like unconscious. It's an unconscious thing that we do. when someone owes us money or when we owe someone's money, we kind of think about how they're spending their money. We go into this rabbit hole of thinking about their life. Why are they owing me money and they're doing XYZ? It's really weird. So debt impacts your relationships absolutely 100%. And it can impact your relationships with your family. It can impact your relationships with your significant other, with how debt impacts your relationship with, like we said, your family, how debt impacts your relationship with your spouse. This part is so detrimental. As we know, finances impact marriages tremendously. I believe that it is possible to have a marriage or a relationship where this is not at the forefront of fights and arguments. It takes work. It's challenging in the beginning, and it takes a lot of discipline. It is hard. It's hard in the beginning. It's hard. But over time, once you start building the muscle of financial maturity and decision making and changing your behaviors together, you will begin to see signs of improvement and growth. So I'll say, when it comes to how debt impacts your relationships with your spouse, when you have two people who are not on the same page as it relates to the finances, that is when you start getting into arguments and so forth. It's a simple fix to it. It's very simple, but it is hard. Becoming one, to me, is more, it's not just about like the decisions you make. I believe when you become one and you financially become one, your relationship grows by leaps and bounds. And by becoming one, this is exactly what I mean. You have one account where the majority, 80 to 90% of your money goes into. You financially get on the same page, there is so much growth that happens, and you move differently. If you're married and you have and you're not on the same page financially, you need to go ahead and get a joint bank account. You need a joint bank account where the majority of both of your money goes into this account. I am not saying that you cannot have individual accounts to where you have, different nuanced things that come out of that account. That is completely fine. But I believe 90% of your pay goes into that joint account. 10% of your pay goes into your individual accounts. Now, I will take it back some. I believe starting at 70 to 80 is fine, because you have to start working the muscle of everything going into one account. Let's sit down, create a budget. So start there. 70 to 80%, start there. Once you start working that muscle, you go up by 2 or 3% every month or every 3 months until you get to 90%. Once you start seeing the bulk of you guys' money going into one account, and then you sit down and you make a budget and so forth, it helps you tremendously. Oftentimes, what happens is, and I know this from my own personal experience, is that you have one person who is making the majority of the money, okay? And the other person who is not making the majority of the money may feel like they're not contributing as much because it's separate. You guys are living separately, like you are married, but you are not, until you combine your finances. I believe that you are still two individual people, because two come as one in all areas, financially and so forth. So I believe that going back to how it changes, one person is making the bulk, one person is not making as much. And you can even have situations where one person is making double or triple what the other person is making. When you decide to put money into one account, it takes your mind from this is yours, this is mine, to this is ours. And that is transforming. That is life-giving to your marriage. And so I have, from personal experience, seen the growth and the development of just that simple thing, which sounds so simple, and depending on if you're a spender or if you're a saver, it can get tedious. That is where sitting down once a week, every 2 weeks, whenever you get paid, creating a budget, creating a plan. The last point we want to talk about is how debt robs you of your future, okay? So every dollar that you send to a lender is a dollar that you cannot use toward your future, your kids' college, giving generously, etc., etc. God's plan for us is to live not only in spiritual freedom, but in financial freedom. I say start here. Any debt that you have, go ahead and write a list from smallest to largest. Over the next month, attack the smallest debt with gazelle intensity. Attack it like this debt is preventing me from the financial freedom that I'm going to have in the future. And so when you look at it like that, start small. Start small and build your way up. Process that I spoke about from going to smallest to largest is called the debt snowball method. And the reason why the snowball method works is because you get a win, like you get a small win. And as we know, every small step leads to you've done a mile. So every small win is far with your debt snowball. You do the first one, you knock that one out. $200, $300, $1,000, knock that one out. You go to the next one. And each small win signals to our brain that we can do it. We got it. We have what it takes. And so this is why the debt snowball works to me the most, and it's the most efficient. And I've done it myself and am currently doing it. The debt isn't easy, but it is absolutely worth it. Proverbs 22:7 reminds us of the reality of debt, but the Bible also promises us hope. Philippians 4:13 says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, who gives me the strength. And honestly, when it comes to financial things, we have to also take on that mindset. I can do all things. I want this now. I cannot have it. I have to delay my gratification in order to be financially free. And that's just the basis of it. So what steps can you take to start the journey of financial freedom? Do you need to sit down and talk with your spouse? Have an honest conversation about money. It is hard, but it is absolutely worth it. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you don't have to be a good slave. You don't have to be a good slave.